You're listening to Modcast, and special guest today is a legend in the mod community, the author of Sweet Roll 5000.
My number one best mod ever made.
And True Storms and a bunch of other great mods. Fading Signal. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks, man. How are you? I'm good.
So, start from the beginning, your origin story.
It goes back 1926.
Yes,
so when
oh, you're a time traveler as well.
I'm a time traveler, so that explains a lot. Well, I'll do it this way. So I did King Gath's podcast the other day, and it was like a 2-hour thing, and I feel like I spent an hour and 58 minutes doing like so much babbling.
Oh, talking about yourself or talking about mods or?
Well, everything. We went off into some it was pretty cool. Like we went into some good conversations. But point being, I'll try to give you the consolidated version of my origin story.
Concise. We like
concise.
Be concise.
Be brief, be bright, be gone is some of the best advice somebody ever gave me. So I got into modding in 2014. So I was a latecomer into the scene. A lot of people assume that I was modding Morrowind and Oblivion and whatnot. I've never even played Morrowind or Oblivion. I know it's blasphemy. But
You're a newbie. You're a Skyrim baby.
Well, Fallout 3 is what got me into Bethesda games in general.
Okay.
And that was sometime around like 2008. My friend was like, dude, you got to play Fallout. You're going to lose your mind. And I didn't lose my mind, but I lost a lot of time. That's for sure. So I kind of delayed playing Skyrim because I knew that it was going to be a big time hole. I knew I was going to get addicted to it. So it sat on my shelf for like 2 years. And then I finally had some time off work and was like, I'm going to fire it up. And I obviously, fell in love with the game itself. But in looking around online, when I was trying to like figure out a quest or something, I started seeing stuff about mods. And I had heard about this from some friends before, but I was always like, they're kind of hacky. Because I think with GTA and stuff, you had to do some like real hacks to get mods to work. So I always assumed that mods were like super hacky, so I just wasn't interested. And then I learned quickly that wasn't the case and just became super addicted. So 2014, I immediately started trying to figure out how to do textures and jumped right in. So that's kind of how I got started. My background with my profession and stuff really plays into how I was able to kind of get good at this stuff as fast as I was.
That's interesting. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so that's the part that I'll try to super condense.
Okay.
So like growing up as a kid, I wanted to be a comic book artist. So an artist was something that I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be like an illustrator or a comic book artist or something like that. And but I always had like a DIY mindset about everything. So when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I was making these like really crappy X-Men knockoff kind of comics at home, and making my own little comic books for fun or whatever. But I around the time that I think it was 12 or 13, my parents got a PC, and that totally changed my life. Like I started messing around in paint programs. And we had some desktop publishing software like CorelDRAW, and we had one of the first versions of Photoshop. So I was in love with digital art. So I spent, all of my time doing that stuff and just, painting things and doing whatever else. That led to me getting an internship at a print shop when I was like 15. My parents knew some people that it was a little mom and pop print shop, and they would print flyers, menus for restaurants, newspapers, stuff like that. So I did an internship there and learned how to do desktop publishing. So I learned how to actually start doing graphic design and business cards and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then skipping ahead a step, when I was 17, I started building websites. And again, it was like a DIY kind of thing. This was the late 90s. I'm 39, by the way. Gonna date myself here. So
no, you and me, we're about the same age. So
oh, okay, got it. So old men checking in, but
exactly.
So yeah, the late 90s. Back in my day, before the YouTubes and back in the late 90s, nobody was building websites. Like there people obviously were, but it wasn't a common skill like it is today. So the fact that my brother and I basically taught ourselves how to build websites, it was a pretty cool skill to have.
Oh, did you happen to have one of those awesome GeoCities websites? Because it was either that or AOL back in the day.
We actually had, so there was an ISP that we hosted sites through, me and my brother.
Wow.
So we actually had domain names and stuff. So it was it was legit. But we started building websites for like our parents' friends and like church businesses and just whatever else. And then By 97, I was like 17 last year of high school. Me and my brother started working at an ISP, actually building websites. And so that was my dream job. I basically went from, comic book artist to graphic designer to web designer because, I knew it was the future. It was graphic design you could interact with, and that was amazing to me. So
as an artist too, I'm sure the websites looked great because a lot of the websites back then, like I mentioned GeoCities, but they were just
my websites were pretty crappy. I mean, I was like a 16-year-old with Photoshop. I mean, come on,
So it's still sort of like the old school, like primitive.
Oh yeah, there was some pretty much. I mean, once I started working at that ISP, there were a couple of guys there that were really good, and we had been building. Like we built the first websites for most of the hotels. This was in Las Vegas, so that's where I grew up originally. So we built like the first Hard Rock Hotel website. We built the first Bellagio website. We did basically all of them, like all of the first ones under the Vegas.com bubble at the time, or umbrella, I should say. But anyway, so I developed my skill as a not just a designer, but a software developer in general. The guys there taught me how to do database work, and I was actually building like reservation systems and doing pretty cool stuff before I was even out of high school.
Yeah.
And so, after high school, I had the choice of quitting the career that I really wanted to be in to go to college and figure out how to pay for that because my family was pretty poor, or stay in the career that I was going to come back to even if I would have went to college anyway. So I was like, you know what? I know this is the future. I don't want to go into like school debt, college debt. I was like, I'm going to just stick it out and see what happens. And that kind of, chased me for a few years. I kind of regretted not going to college, but these days I feel like it's the opposite. Everybody regrets their massive debt and everything. But anyway, so my point is that I got involved with, technology and design and all that kind of stuff really early on. So fast forward through all that, I worked at a bunch of different startups. I moved out to California 20 years ago, where I've been ever since. And
you were, like I know this, but
yeah,
general public doesn't know this. But you were one of the MySpace people, right?
I was, yeah. So I moved out here in '99 and was working at a couple different ISPs, and then eventually by 2007, I started working at MySpace. Oh no, it was 2006. Sorry. So yeah, that was 2006 was like peak MySpace. That was like when it was the number one site on the internet, and there was like 200 million users. All this crazy stuff. It was a wild time. It was amazing, but. We lost the battle to Facebook, but I was there from 2006 until 2014. So I was there for a long time.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's funny how stuff happens like that. I mean, if you were on with Facebook, I mean, it completely would have changed your life, right? You'd probably still be there now. You'd probably be swimming in cash.
Yeah, maybe.
On a yacht somewhere.
Thanks for reminding me, man.
Podcasting from a yacht. Hanging out with Zuckerberg.
Yeah, but there's I don't know. I mean, the battle we had with Facebook could be, told in legend, and there could be books written about it. Somebody was like, you should write a book, but
if had you gone that route, we wouldn't have all your amazing mods. You wouldn't be on this path.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never wanted to move up to like Silicon Valley and in the heat of all that stuff. That really wasn't. I don't know. It's just never. Yeah, I don't know. I don't regret my paths.
Do you feel like more creatively fulfilled now going through this path, you think, or?
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, the way that this all kind of got started was, MySpace finally fell apart, and like we tried to relaunch it around 2012, 2013. Like Fox sold it to a small ad company in Orange County, and they tried to rebuild it and rebrand it, and had Justin Timberlake throw in some money so they could kind of use him as the face and stuff. It didn't work. So.
Yeah.
I rejoiced that me along with the whole product. I was a senior product manager by then. The whole staff got laid off basically, except a skeleton crew. And I rejoiced because I had tried to leave a couple times, and they bent over backward to keep me there, which was awesome. But so I was finally happy to get out of there. But that departure gave me the free time to, I started working on a couple of iPhone apps and started working on. A couple of iOS games actually was what I was that was my goal. And then through that is sort of how I got into modding a little bit. So yeah, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have made these cool mods, and I wouldn't, be doing the work that I do now. So
yeah. What was your first mod?
First mod that I made at all was my moon textures for Skyrim.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, that was the first thing I did. I felt like a good introduction into learning the file formats and just how all that stuff worked, because I had no idea what the hell a texture file was, but I knew Photoshop really well, so it was just kind of a matter of learning the formats and stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of your early mods, I'd say they're kind of just like small tweaks to the game.
Yeah,
Is that
totally.
something you were just like when you were playing the game, it annoyed you, or more or less? You
Absolutely,
wanted to fix it?
yeah. Yeah, every mod that I've ever made always starts with me playing the game, and as I'm playing it, kind of being like, oh man, I wish I could do XYZ, and then I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to do it. So, totally.
And then what was like the first really big, was it True Storms that just blew up or whatnot?
So, you know what? I'm actually going to look at the Nexus real quick because I tend to forget.
Or was it Bard instrumentals only?
Oh no, that came later. So what the irony is that my mods have gotten smaller and smaller over time as I've had less and less time to make, bigger things. So let me see here. So the first thing that really blew up. So my moon textures actually did pretty well. It hit hot files and stuff, which was pretty cool for my first mod. And then the first one that really actually blew up was Simply Bigger Trees. So this one's kind of a sleeper that like a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't realize that was you, but I've been using it for like 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a mod that basically just increases the size of all the trees in the game. It doesn't touch the models, but just, increases the scale. So you have big forests.
Yeah, it kind of gives you this feeling that you're actually in a forest as opposed to just like, in like a scaled down version of the world.
Right. But that was the first one that blew up, and actually kind of like looking at the endorsements, everything up to that had like, a couple thousand endorsements. That one's got like 20,000. So that was my first one that really like exploded. And then after that, it was Skysight Skins, which was the male retextures. Because that was, I wanted to step up my texture game a bit, and there were I wouldn't say that there were no good textures, but there weren't any male textures that I liked. There was like 50,000 for females, but only like 2 for men. So that was the probably the biggest one that hit. But True Storms is probably what I'm known the most for.
Did you start transitioning from, okay, I want to like fix this in the game, to where I want to learn how to do this, and then start making mods? Because you mentioned you wanted to learn how to do like textures for faces.
Yeah, well, it was kind of jumping all the way back to that sort of DIY spirit that I've always had. I've always been, I write music and I do all kinds of other stuff too. I've always been that weirdo that's just I always like to make things. And whenever I'm listening to something or watching something or even playing something, the thing that's going through my head is like, how can I make this, or how did they do this? I'm always trying to kind of reverse engineer stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was basically just one thing leading to another. Once I started playing around with the creation kit and just kind of getting a feel for everything that you could do, my ideas just started getting bigger and bigger. So first it was just, I want to make some high quality textures. And then, just again, it was just one step led to the next thing. So as soon as I knew how to do textures, then I started thinking a little bit about meshes, and then I started thinking about gameplay, and then you know what I mean? It just kind of all spiraled. So.
And like you said, you also compose music. Have you thought of just doing mods, or like replacing like the soundtrack, or adding to the soundtrack? I shouldn't say replacing, because Jeremy Soule is awesome, but adding to the background music, or adding to like fight music or anything like that.
Thought about it. The music that I write, I'm going to do a shameless plug. If you want to go search up Vogel, which is my last name, it's Vogel. If you search that up on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, you'll find my music. So I write electronic music. Everything I do is pretty like future sci-fi sounding, and I've written soundtrack type stuff before, but I haven't done anything like that in forever. So I've thought about it. Like I wanted to make some kind of Redguard music for like a bard or something, some kind of like Middle Eastern type music and stuff. So I don't know. That might be in the stars. We'll see.
Or you could just give Sven like a fucking electronic
exactly. Funny you mentioned that. In Fallout 4, I was actually going to I had an idea to put my album in there as a holotape.
Yes.
So I still might do that, with like little playback controls, because you can put like you can do images in the Pip-Boy, which I haven't seen people do a lot. Mm-hmm. So when you have a holotape load, you can actually display an image. So I was going to put the album art and stuff in there. So look out for that. I might actually release that. That'd be cool.
You never know. You
never know.
Record producer is playing Fallout, just playing your mod. It's like, holy shit, I need to sign this guy.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're like fucking headlining whatever concert is hip with the kids nowadays because I'm fucking old.
Yeah, I'm probably. I don't know. I feel like with music stuff, I did a little very mini tour like 2 years ago with a band and like really good shows. But I'm too old for this shit. Yeah, I can't. I'm not a road dog. I don't think I could handle a full tour. But anyway, so
do you think maybe Starfield might have electronic music or something that like fits more for your style?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm not sure. I would imagine that it's going to have some futuristic stuff. Because the thing about Fallout is that all those games have that retro.
Exactly, yeah.
So everything's like kind of 50s sounding and stuff. So yeah, I'm really curious what the soundtrack is going to be like for that. I wonder who they got working on that.
No like techno stuff on the ink spots. There's no like fast beats or anything like that.
No.
What do you think Starfield is going to be? Because space is pretty generic. We could have, cyberpunk kind of like really like gritty future. We could have space opera type future like Star Wars or Mass Effect.
Yeah.
What do you think it's going to be?
I don't like if I had to guess. I mean, well, I'm trying to think. It's tough to say because this is a new IP for them, right? So
right.
With Fallout, we kind of knew that they were building on something that existed, that universe that existed already. So we had a feel, okay, it's going to be post-apocalyptic, et cetera, et cetera. So I honestly have no idea, just based on how Bethesda, with their last couple of games, like with Fallout 4 and 76, they definitely reached out of their comfort zones, kind of. They've evolved a bit with what they do. So, I mean, I can't even begin to guess. I can say what I want. Like what I would want it to be. I would love it to feel like Skyrim as far as exploration goes, where like you could just play the game and ignore any quest and just run around and fly around in space, and just and have that be so enjoyable that could, you could play that for hours on its own.
Right.
That would be what I would want to be able to do. But not like No Man's Sky or anything, but just got that Bethesda flavor,
A Bethesda flavor, though, wouldn't that just be on a single planet with other planets as DLC kind of thing? So it's like a single world space, right?
It could be.
A single space station.
I see what you mean. I mean, I hope not. I hope that you actually get to like get out into actual space and stuff. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it's like kind of Mass Effect-y where it's like set piece. I have no idea, man. Yeah. All I know is that I'm excited for it.
Yeah. The one thing I would like is, like, how Fallout, it's a post-apocalyptic game, but they have that retro quirk to it. It has a hook that's different. It makes it unique. So I just don't want it to be... I mean, I'll still play it anyway, but I just don't want it to be like exactly like a space opera, like a Mass Effect kind of deal where there's no sort of... it's a little bit sterile in a sense. Like, there's no like creativity in there. Like, there's no... Like, society isn't going to look like that like 200 years from now. There's going to be like artsy ways of designing things. It's not going to be
like Outer Worlds.
Well, Outer Worlds is it's kind of dystopian, isn't it? Isn't it a little bit of corporate in a sense?
It is, but it's also like kind of comedic in that Borderlands kind of way, what I mean, where it's like over the top a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The thing it's probably unpopular, but I sort of like a more serious tone in games. And I think that does have a tendency to make them feel more sterile, because everyone's like, oh, this is too much like reality. It's boring or whatever. But I don't know. I would like to see it like, again, like feel and tone kind of like the Elder Scrolls, maybe a little bit, a little bit more serious as opposed to like, I feel like Fallout's pretty goofy at this point.
Yeah. No, it could be serious. But I think maybe something with a little more artistic flavor. Like Cyberpunk is like that, right? Cyberpunk is super serious, but there's also just, I don't know, it's like
that's true. There's a very distinct art style to it, and it's speaking of Cyberpunk, I'm like beyond hyped for that. That's gonna be. I think that's gonna be killer. But yeah, you're right. They were able to take. Some people were saying, "Oh, it's such a tired aesthetic," because that cyberpunk vibe has been around since like the early '80s. Like, Neuromancer incarnate. But yeah, they were able to take that aesthetic and kind of, I don't know, put their own spin on it. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I think.
Plus it's been a while since we've had something like really cyberpunk, at least in this generation, right?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I kind of feel like I follow a lot of like cyberpunk Reddit subforums and stuff. That's all. That's like totally my jam. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, cyberpunk's not cool anymore because we're actually living in a cyberpunk dystopia." And I'm like, "No, we're not. We're not. We're not. I mean, yeah, there's some Black Mirror shit going on, but yeah, like there's lots of room for it still. I'm happy to see it like full bore. I was kind of hoping that Fallout 4 had a little bit of cyberpunkish stuff, which it kind of did with the VR in Far Harbor, and terminals are pretty cyberpunk. But are there any games that you're hyped about seeing coming out?
Yeah, the same too. Like Cyberpunk, Outer Worlds was the other one. Outer Worlds it does seem to have like a little bit of a Fallout vibe. So
Sure.
I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be like, but Obsidian does good work. So
Yeah, they do. Like I was just watching. I think you and I both have the same thing where like I always tell people I'm a bad gamer because like I don't play a lot of non-Bethesda games, and when I do, I only play like maybe 10 or 20 hours max, and I'm kind of I just get kind of bored, because
right.
I need that open world, son. So a lot of games, like I was just watching a video about how Rockstar's mission designs, they still kind of stick to their 20-year-old kind of formula of the way that they do missions. And like even in Red Dead Redemption 2, they kind of go back and forth between things being completely open world, but then when you do missions, if you even try to do, and if you deviate off the actual path at all, that you get the game over screen. And so just thinking about that, I'm kind of curious how these games are going to handle that. It sounds like from what I'm seeing, Cyberpunk is going to have crazy open world to the point where like you can do an escort mission and instead of following the guy, you can just go eat a burger and the guy can get killed. And instead of ending the game, it'll actually just affect the outcome of the story. So it sounds like that's going to be like super open world.
That's something I tend to do when I'm escorting somebody somewhere.
Totally. The first thing I think is I want a sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. Like, screw this mission. I'm hungry.
Mercenary work is hungry work.
Yes,
but
exactly.
It sounds like Outer Worlds is going to be a lot more story driven. They said that there's going to be a few levels, but it's not going to be like full blown open world, which is okay because they are. I feel like Obsidian's so good at storytelling.
Yeah.
That having it kind of locked in a little bit more like that might be okay, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm definitely pumped for those two.
You're saying you're playing less games now. I mean, the same is true for me. Do you think it's because the novelty is wearing off, or do you think it's just because you've modded games now and you've been on that side that's more fulfilling, or maybe a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, there was a period of time through my like early 20s for like I think it was like 6 years that I didn't play a single game whatsoever. I was completely out of the loop.
Yeah.
I grew up on like all the Sierra games and was like a hardcore like super gamer nerd and stuff as a kid. But
so you were PC as a kid?
Yeah, totally.
No console.
I mean, I had like a Super Nintendo and stuff and a Genesis and everything, but I was like, I got super into PC games because they were a lot more immersive. So
Yes.
King's Quest and Space Quest and all those are what I cut my teeth on. But anyway, so yeah, I just kind of, it ebbs and flows basically. So I've just been busy with work and life and whatever else, so I haven't had as much time. But again, like I said, I played. I think the last game that I really dipped into pretty heavily was Assassin's Creed Origins, but I never actually finished it. But yeah, I always hit a point where I want to change something or tweak something to make the game feel the way I want, and I can't, and that immediately frustrates me.
Yeah.
Like in Assassin's Creed Origins, the nighttime, it's like, I mean, a lot of games are like this, including Bethesda games by default, where the nighttime is almost as bright as the daytime. And I'm like, no, man, I want it to actually feel like nighttime,
Yeah.
So, but with, you can't mod Assassin's Creed, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like, I just get kind of frustrated and kind of bored, so.
Yeah, I feel like the same. It's just when you play a game, you want to change things. Like I was playing, I think, what was it, Far Cry 5? Is that the most recent one?
Yes.
And I don't know. I just wanted to put in NPCs who you talk to you could converse with and stuff, and do, because that's my thing.
Yeah.
I just want to fill the world with people and just create like more engaging interactions, and you can't do that. There's just there's a template to it that all shooters have, where you go to a place, you shoot something, you blow it up or whatever, and maybe you rescue somebody there. But there's like a template to all these like shooter games that almost every game has,
Yeah.
And I think that sort of wears on me, is that the novelty is kind of gone when it comes to shooters.
Yeah, anything that's, I think the repetitious nature of games is what really turns me off. Like that's why I can't, that's why I can't spend more than like 10 hours on a certain game. Because even Assassin's Creed Origin, I keep mentioning that just because it's the last one that I really like dove into.
Yeah.
After, a few hours of it, if you divert from the main storyline that's kind of on rails, the side stuff is very grindy. It's like, kill alligators, get the leather, upgrade your armor. It's like, that's it, There's not a lot of, I don't know. It's just, things get too grindy, and shooters, like you said, are the worst. Like, shooters are really fun, I think, when you're playing with friends and you can jump in for like a 15-minute death match or whatever. But playing the actual game itself, like, blow this thing up, shoot this guy, skip the cutscene.
Yeah, because I think with friends, you're less sort of engaged in the story because you're talking to each other, I guess, and it's more action based. So I could totally see that. I think Origins is the one in Egypt, right?
Yes, and it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah. I played a little bit of that too, and then I got bored with it.
Yeah, it's funny because there was I so desperately, and I still keep trying to think about it, like a way to make a mod where you can have a bird like you do in Origins.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, that eagle, cool. Like when you're just chilling and he goes and lands on your arm. Oh man, it's so cool.
And you could have it scout for you and everything too.
Yeah, that is so killer. I think, and I made a mod, one of his like perk overhaul mods, I think has a perk that has like a scout bird or something in it. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it launches in the air, and I think it just highlights enemies or something. But that's still pretty damn cool.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. That's like something they have in Borderlands too, with like Mordecai. You could like send his bird out or whatever. I don't know if he marks enemies or just like kills them, maims them.
I think, if I remember, I think you can make him attack them, and it's like a distraction, and then you can go and
Yeah, I mean that would be cool to just have in Skyrim. You have like you're a falconer, and you send your falcon out there and main people.
Yeah, it gets tricky with animations and stuff, but you could still do it. Speaking of Borderlands, those were two games that I loved. Like I thought Borderlands 1 and 2 were awesome. Like I played those top to bottom. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've beaten both, but it's been a while.
I thought I had a lot of fun. Those were pretty grindy in some spots, but they were unique enough. Like it goes back to what you were saying about that art style.
Yeah.
The game stood out enough, and the whole vibe was so fresh that it kept the the gameplay fresh. So that was pretty cool. I'm not too keen on the prequel or 3 though. I kind of feel like, for me anyway, the Borderlands ship has kind of sailed a bit.
Yeah, again, it's once the novelty sort of wears off, it's kind of it's a little bit hard to kind of go back into it. But they're gonna keep making sequels to the end of time, I assume.
Yeah, it's funny because thinking about that, but then if I compare that to like Skyrim and Fallout, like every time I get bored in another game, I go back to like Skyrim and Fallout. So
well, the thing about I can't say that for Fallout, but for Skyrim, it's always going to be a different biome or different sort of its environment is so different, and the people are so different that
that's true.
It works. They're almost like different games. It's in the same universe, but it's like a different experience to play Oblivion and play Skyrim or play Morrowind.
Yeah, that's true.
And then next, I guess, is Hammerfell, or
I don't know. Like, that's what the speculation is based on the
video.
The video,
like the desert. Could be elsewhere. Could be cats.
Could be. Somebody said it looked like High Rock. I don't know. They did some crazy folks took parts of like a map and concept drawing and stuff, and it looked like some corner of High Rock. But that's that's near Hammerfell, I think, right?
Maybe it's Skyrim 2 Global Warming Edition.
Oh God. I really do. I want to I really want to go to Hammerfell, like in an official game. Like I've been collecting a bunch of mods to try to do, at some point a playthrough with like mega modded playthrough. I might try to YouTube and stream that. But anyway, the big thing I'm trying to look at is like desert mods. Like the big one is Manny GT's Gray Cowl, right?
Right.
Did you ever play that?
I have not.
Yeah, it looks cool, and I think that's probably one of the only desert mods that's actually like complete. Like a few people have released a few, like travel to Hammerfell, and it's kind of like this island with some NPCs that are buggy and whatever. But
is there something in particular about the desert sort of landscape that excites you? Like,
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I know that sounds like it's a weird thing to say. Like I've been thinking about the desert a lot lately. Like what the hell is wrong with you?
Hey, you're from Las Vegas,
That's
man.
true.
It's home.
Maybe like I got out of there because I can't stand super high
Maybe
heat.
you're gonna put up a strip. Just
Maybe I am. Maybe
the Bellagio.
I'll do Vegas Part 2.
They'll have a website, and it'll be
they'll have a website.
made by Vogel and Company.
There you go. And I'll do the music, and I'll make a little mini game. No, I think I don't know. I've always liked the desert, especially like like Dune is one of my favorite books, and films. That's like controversial to like the film and the book, but I like both.
Oh, they're coming out with a new Dune, aren't they?
Yes, I'm pretty pumped about that. It's gonna be what's the director? Damn it, I forgot. It's a good director.
Yeah,
it's I can't believe that I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
Just gonna like edit it in.
It's the guy that did Blade Runner 2049.
Oh yeah. That's
Denis Villeneuve, is that his name? Yeah.
Villanueva.
Yeah, it's like it's pronounced Denis, and his last name is pronounced Villeneuve.
But is
or
it
something.
spelled Dennis?
It's spelled Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah. So, but it's Denis.
It's Denis Villeneuve.
The S is silent. Okay, yeah, I like that.
And so are half. Yeah,
it's like Robert
yes.
Vogel.
Robert Vogel. So yeah, he's directing it, so it should be pretty badass. But anyway, yeah, I've always been like into like Egypt and kind of desert and Middle Eastern music and stuff. Like I don't know, I just have this kind of, maybe I had a past life as like a wandering desert caravan, merchant. I don't know.
Or you were in another simulation if this world is a
That's
simulation.
true. That's true. Yeah, it was in a different.
Yeah, you were in Dune or something.
Yeah, I think it's, speaking of that, if we want to go off the rails, I think it's pretty trippy how so many people are becoming kind of accepting of the idea that this is just a simulation.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, wow, like, science, like I see articles and stuff where like prominent scientists are like, I don't know, probably. I'm like, what the hell?
You would think that if we were in a simulation, we would at the very least have magic or something cool,
Yeah, I mean, but it's not coded that way, so whatever.
Possibly. No, like, velociraptors to ride and stuff like that.
True, that's true. I just want to teleport and time travel, man. That's all.
Yeah. Although I guess there's that theory, like, okay, so if we had the ability to fly, would it be amazing, or would it just be normal because we were used to it?
Oh, it'd be normal because we'd be used to it, for sure.
Exactly.
We adapt to everything gets normalized by our little monkey brains so fast.
So in that regard, maybe the world is amazing. Maybe our simulation is pretty imaginative. We're just used to it, It's
I mean, if you compare like human life to all of the other life on the planet, it's pretty damn amazing what we can do. Yeah. So it kind of is magic that we can fly in aluminum tubes across the world and stuff. So
or just even talk to each other through
microphone electricity over the interwebs. Yeah,
it's
pretty cool.
It's insane. But yeah, I guess flying would be like running. I don't like to run. I'll just get tired and I'll just take a cab. Take a lift.
Yes, same.
I think the worlds that excite me most are probably Valenwood because of the moving cities. I don't know how logistically that would be possible.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Forests, cities that walk up and move, but
I wonder if it's kind of like ants or something, like big tree roots that move around or something, with legs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It wasn't in the base game, you could always just mod it in, right?
It's true. That's true. I feel like wood elves are thus far in Elder Scrolls less represented than a lot of other races. Like, there's a lot of Dunmer stuff. There's a lot of high elf stuff. I feel like, I don't know. I kind of feel like the wood elves don't get a lot of love.
Yeah, and it may be just because of the technological limitations. I mean, like I said, moving cities, but there's also like the Green Pact, I guess, where they just turn into these like crazy monsters, like Lovecraftian monsters almost. I'm not sure the exact lore, but
I think like the Wild Hunt is what part of that. Yeah,
and
because the Green Pact. The Green Pact was just them basically the forest. Here we go. I'm gonna get on my nerd tip. The Green Pact was them, the forest that the Bosmer live in. They had to make like a pact with that piece of land, whatever entity, the land is alive, and the pact was that they wouldn't touch or destroy they wouldn't destroy any plant life in that area.
Right. So that's why they only eat meat.
So they only eat meat, and they have to eat anything that they kill. So if they kill an enemy, they have to consume their body, which is pretty hardcore.
And you can't like chop wood or anything like that. So
no, but there is the loophole of that is that the pact is only about that specific region of land. So they are allowed to import or use wood and plants and stuff outside of Valenwood. So,
but is Fandal, is it cool for him to be a lumberjack or whatever?
Man, good question. I think somewhere there's a tree crying. Yeah,
because you walk into Riverwood and there Fandal is. He's just carrying his fucking blocks of wood.
Is there a mod to make Fandal a cannibal? That would be pretty cool. Just see him eating bodies when you go into Riverwood.
Yeah. Someone needs to tell Camille about that. I mean, she's so worried about all this other stuff with the Fandal.
Yeah, I want a mod that changes the intro to Riverwood to be Fandal eating a body at the entrance. Yeah. That's the mod I want to see.
Yeah, he's not even like cooking it or anything like that. No. He's just like straight eating it raw. Huh?
Yeah, just eating someone's eyeballs.
Maybe it's Sven. Maybe it's Sven. Maybe that could be the ending to the quest.
So speaking of that, are there any, just throwing a little fresh topic out, are there any things like what are some of the, if you've been following, some of your favorite mods that have come out in the last, I don't know, couple of years?
I have not been following. Have you?
I put you on the spot. So, well, there's been a wave of ports. So most of the stuff that's popping up on the Nexus on Special Edition are ports of things from Legendary. Mm-hmm. Some of my favorite things have been this guy, he's making like a bunch of new gates and new door meshes. So that sounds kind of like, what? That's not interesting, but that's my favorite kind of thing. Like he's making brand new models of like the Whiterun gates and the gates into Riften, and they're like really detailed and unique.
Oh yeah, that sounds awesome.
Just
the little cool things that are immersive.
I love those little things. So anything that can like change up architecture or whatever else.
Sweet rolls.
Yeah.
But going back to that, what is because trying to keep the focus on you is about you.
Oh,
right?
okay, sure.
So what is the mod that you're sort of the most proud of, or
a
couple of mods?
True Storms probably is my most proud, and the funny thing is that that's under the covers. It's really pretty simple, but I think True Storms and Simply Bigger Trees are my two favorite ones because those, for me, as I mentioned before, all of my ideas come from things that I want. So those were things that I felt were kind of missing in my own game. So when I put them in, I felt like, yes, these made the biggest impact, So I feel like those are my two favorites.
And those are like, especially the trees, it's a very simple change, right?
Totally. Yeah. It's like all I did with that one was I scaled up the meshes using NIF scope, but there was a bunch of other little settings I had to tweak to make them not disappear, and the collision was all messed up at first and stuff. So
yeah. Are the trees painted? I forget. Or are they object references, or are they?
They're object references.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can do it in the plugin, like you can actually change the scale, but there's like 50,000 records, and it's like it gets ugly.
Yeah.
And there's a weird thing too, where like depending on the way that, like if you encounter an area and references of trees load, sometimes they get stored as they get, at least in Oldrim, they would store as permanent references like in your save. So if you change the scale in a plugin and load it, it didn't do anything. So I had to do it at the mesh level.
Yeah, can you imagine changing every single tree 1.5?
Yeah, no thanks. I mean, you could do it like in batch and Xedit or whatever, but yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, definitely. So you change the mesh and boom, it's scaled 1. It's just bigger.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just scaled up to like 1.5. The only thing that sucks about that is that there's like other mods that add trees to cities and stuff. They scale those up in their plugin to try to make them kind of more dramatic. So if you do that and then add my mod, you get these like 5,000 foot trees.
Yeah, compatibility thing. There's always going to be something, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, True Storms is the one, and then especially for Fallout 4, I did True Storms for Fallout 4, and that one like really blew up, and that got into like PC Gamer and all that stuff. So
yeah. Basement Living also blew up, right? Didn't that have like?
Yeah, that blew up a bit because that was before the CK, so I did a lot of that. Like, there's some, it's clean now, but the first release it was a little messy with how I had to do it, but
it's all right. Yeah. No one will know.
Nobody will know.
Until they listen to this.
Oh no, it's all good now. It's all clean now. You ruined
my save.
Nah, it's all good. It is overdue for an update. Yeah, like oh god, bunch of rage. I already get that anyway. Anytime you have a mod Like, I put up, I think the last big mod I released for Fallout 4 was that Beretta M9 pistol.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's always, whenever you get something that's got thousands of downloads, there's always people that are like, this made my game explode. And like, all the characters in my game don't have faces now. I'm like, okay, well, a gun
that's what this gun does. It shoots people's faces off.
Yes, it is it's a gun / invisible face replacer. Anyway.
Is there any mod that you would like to see or that you thinking about working on?
Yeah, I mean, I've still got like a huge list of things that I would love to make if I could find the time. I've been really into making little things like, so for Skyrim, I made like a Solstheim lighthouse and a little fishing camp with some new tents and stuff. I've been into that kind of thing. Like, I want to make more little details. Like, I want to try to make some more like little statues or little, I kind of want to retexture some of the shrines maybe. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little stuff that I want to do. I mean, I've had early on. It's funny how it works. When I was first modding, my ideas were like, I want to make a huge quest that goes into the lore of Whiterun.
Did
and
you say it with that voice?
Yes, it's exactly what I said. But I mean, you see that all the time. Like people that are new to modding, they get so excited. They're like, I'm going to do a DLC sized, and I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
That's what I thought too. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make an island.
Well, to
DLC.
be fair, your mod is probably one of the biggest mods like that exists. So
no,
kudos to you.
At the time, it was not going to happen. And what ended up happening was I made one guy stand in an inn, and he couldn't even move. He just had his thumb up his ass the whole time, and he barely said 2 words.
There's an animation for thumb up the ass. That's pretty. That's sweet.
Yes. No, that's what took the 2 years. It was just the thumb up the ass animation. But
well, yeah, we know where you can get those animations at. But anyway,
exactly.
So as time has gone on and I've kind of learned the ropes of all this stuff, my ideas have gotten smaller and smaller. So I'm trying to think what was something I really wanted to do. I really wanted to make something that I was talking about how Bosmer were underrepresented. Mm-hmm. I would like to see, and I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but throwing this out to the people out there, more camps of other races around Skyrim. So, in the upper, like north, kind of northwest area, why not have like a little kind of hammer or Redguard encampment, that has new architecture, even if it's tiny, just a tiny little encampment, like a scout camp or something with new tents and stuff. And then somewhere in the south have like a little Argonian merchant camp that's got new assets and stuff and feels kind of fresh. Like, I think that would be really cool to see because then it's just new little place to explore that look new.
Anything with new assets is always fun because it's like, I haven't seen this before.
Totally. Those go such a long way.
And it's plus, you could transform over to Hammerfell if you do a Redguard camp.
That is true.
It's going to be nice. It's going to be killer. Yeah. Is there anything else, any other mod you want to talk about or anything?
No, not really. I'm probably at some point, I mean, I've been slowly, very, very slowly working on updating my old stuff. So I have a campsite for Fallout 4 update that's in the works slowly but surely. And I'm planning on updating a couple of my other mods. True Storms is probably the most finished. Like, there's nothing really more to add to that. But yeah, I guess that's just a little tip that I'm probably going to go back through and little by little update my old stuff with some extra stuff.
You did mention that when you started out, you wanted to do a big quest mod, big DLC type thing. And the irony is now that you probably have the skills where you can, is that something that crossed your mind either for this game or the next game?
Maybe for the next game. I mean, I still have these ideas, but like I said, the more that I've learned, the more the reality has crashed on me that those big things, like I don't have 5 years to spend on making some giant thing. But I would like to make some. There's some ideas that I have, and they're not. I wouldn't say that they're DLC sized, but I think like I've been playing with making new kit pieces and stuff. So I would like to make. There is one in particular that I'm saving the idea. It'll be a surprise, but there's one in particular. Basically, it would be probably a new dungeon or set of dungeons that have new tile sets, basically that are based on something we don't get to see a lot of. So I'll just leave it at that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Surprises. All right. Well,
Cool.
That's it for this episode of Modcast. I want to thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
The amazing Fading Signal. Oh, one thing I didn't
Takahashi.
ask.
What's up?
Is what's the name come from? Fading Signal.
Oh, it's funny. It's a really old nickname that I just used on like AOL or something, like on Instant Messenger. I don't remember. It was one of those, I got to come up with a name real quick. So
you just like typed out anything.
Yeah, every time I see it typed or I think about it, I always picture like a beacon sitting in the sand somewhere that's kind of, fading away or something, like some sort of emergency beacon fading out. Yeah, I don't know, whatever.
You're in need of a rescue, I guess.
I'm just glad that I didn't choose like donkey ass 25 or like XX 420,
Yeah, I'm sure you would have changed it at that point. But I guess if you got famous before then, you'd be stuck with it, huh?
Right. Yeah. There's some pretty awesome modern names out there. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, again, thanks for coming on.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
All right. Take care.